Hey there, it's Antonio from TruOI, and I'm excited to have you here with us today. We've got an awesome topic on the menu, building like a TruOI engineer. In this video, we'll dive into some neat data structure tips, sneaky conditional formatting tricks, and chart settings that'll bring that wow factor to your dashboards. Our star of the show today is definitely the details chart, a sleek presentation style chart with endless possibilities. But don't worry, we'll take it one step at a time, making it a breeze for you. The best part of all, tile effects. These will supercharge your design game and make your charts stand out from the rest. Starting off, we're going to take a look at the full dashboard. This is an example of one of our scorecard dashboard designs, and it does a great job of pulling together those high-level KPIs from different data vendors and grouping them together so they can be found easily. I'm going to take you through the process of building out one of these groupings and some fun tricks along the way, so let's dive in. Here's the labor overview grouping. When designing out one of these groups, I tend to focus on 3 to 5 elements. Why is this? Mainly because 20 is too many and 1's not enough. But in all seriousness, to deliver information swiftly and without distractions, our strategy revolves around a main graphical chart, complemented by a supporting details chart or contextual element. Our primary goal is to present the data within a couple of seconds, keeping our audience engaged. So how do we achieve that? In this example, we've employed a trend-based column chart, offering a quick comparison at a glance. To enhance understanding, we've added conditional formatting to our details chart, cleverly highlighting our call to actions. Whenever you spot red text, that's an alert, prompting us to dig deeper and explore further. To bring it all together seamlessly, we've wrapped our design in a unified tile effect, providing each data set with its identity and improving overall readability. Not to miss anything important, we label the data for clarity. Notice the information icon in the upper right-hand corner? It's a direct link to our knowledge base, allowing users to gain a better understanding of the metrics they're exploring. The foundation of building out our dashboard lies in having a good data set. And by good, we don't necessarily mean a data set with numerous columns. In fact, all we need for this case is a consistent x-axis and a couple of summarized fields. If you find yourself needing assistance with data preparation, don't hesitate to reach out to your dedicated client success manager. They can arrange a personalized session with one of our skilled engineers to assist you at every stage. In this particular event, our data boasts a consistent week date stamp and a seamless labor calculation. No missing pieces. With this well-prepared data set in hand, the possibilities for visualization are virtually endless. Using some of the tricks I'm going to share with you today, we can take a standard chart set like this and make it look custom designed for you. To start off, we're going to go ahead and set up our tile effects. Opening up the tile effects, it breaks it down into 3 categories. We've got our margins, our tile, and our content. The margins are going to control everything on the boundary of the tile itself. I'd like to start off by setting this at a 10. From here, I'm going to move on to the tile category. For this, I like to set a white background as a starting block. Next, we're going to take a look at the shadow. This is going to help us to get it to pop off of the page. To start off, I usually set the blur radius at a 5. Next, I'll take the vertical offset and I'll put it up to a 5. Lastly, I'll wrap it up by bringing the spread radius down to a -2. You'll notice that the corner radius is set at a 10. And we also brought the width of the border down to a 0 so that there isn't any harsh lines around the outside edge. This will give it a modern and clean look. For now, we're going to leave the content section alone, and we're going to return to it once we have the charts in each tile. Right away, you'll notice that we already have an identity starting to form for this tile grouping. The next step is to give it a name. So we'll go ahead, I'm going to split this in half. I'm going to bring this up towards the top. The next step is to go ahead and assign a color. For this, we're going to come back and we're going to go back to the tile color, and we're going to actually change this to our header color, which on the right-hand side there, you can see is going to be 423942. This is just a standard gray that I like to use. From here, we're going to go ahead and close this out, and we're going to add in the text. For this, we're going to use a text panel. Whenever I use the text panel, I typically like to change a couple settings before we get started. I like to go ahead and turn on prevent scroll bars, and then I also like to set all of the margins to 0. Setting these to 0 will allow us to control all of the spacing in the tile effects feature rather than in the chart, so that if we want to transition to a mobile later on, It's an easy transition. Next, we're going to go ahead and add the text. Because we want the text to pop off the page, we want to make it a white text because we're using such a dark header. So to preview it easier, I like to go ahead and click on this little ink drop in the upper right-hand corner, and this is going to give me a black spacing. Next, I'm going to go ahead and change the text color to white, and then I'm going to type out our header name. I'm also going to set the size to 20, which is a great size to have as a header. Notice that we set the margins in the panel to 0. It is kind of cramped in the upper left-hand corner. This brings us to the content margins. Looking at this preview, you'll see a little white dotted line. This is actually the outer edge of your content. For this, I'm going to bring it in from the left about 15 pixels, and I'm also going to bring it in from the top about 15 pixels. And what you'll see is it balances it out inside the header. For the next part, we're going to go ahead and bring in the previous 2 charts from the last slide. We're going to start with the details chart. The first thing we're going to look at is going to be the axes. For our x-axis, we've got our week ending date. And for the Y1 and Y2, we've got our scheduled labor and actual labor. If you'll recall, in the beginning, we talked about adding in conditional formatting to emphasize the call to actions. To achieve that look, we have to build an axis for each one of those colors. To build out these axes, we'll use the expression builder. When using the builder, you have 2 ways to reference other axes. The first is going to be coming into the variables dropdown, going to the value, and clicking on your individual value. The second is referencing the axis identifier as seen here. This expression is saying that if the scheduled labor is greater than or equal to the actual labor, then subtract the actual labor from the scheduled labor. Otherwise, we don't want any value to be returned. So that when we later display this on the chart, it'll show up as a null value. Having it show up as a null value will allow us to achieve the conditional formatting. As you see here, only one value is present at any given time. Now, when we go to build out the details chart, we're going to reference both of these columns, although only one of them are going to be present at any given time. Now, for the build out, we've got a couple different things going on at once. We've got a 2x2 table, we've got multiple size text, and we also have the conditional formatting set up. As mentioned previously, the conditional formatting is going to have both references right next to each other. To reference any of the columns in your data set, all you have to do is come down to the macros button, and you'll see a category called value, which will list all of the columns that are available. Once you've pulled in the reference, all you have to do is highlight it and change the color, and then make any other modifications you would want. For me, this includes changing the header size to a 20, changing the actual KPI value to a 24 and bolding it, changing the subtext to a 16, as well as any other associated metric titles. In this case, we have the efficiency. One of the other tricks that we did with this details chart is we pulled open the table properties and we set the border width to 0. This will give us the invisible border and keep our data clean. The first thing you'll notice after building out the context of your details chart is that some of the fields are going to need some formatting. For this, you can come into the Formats and Labels tab, and here you'll see all of your number formats, your date formats, and then your unit labels. In this case, we're going to go ahead and we're going to format the red variance field together. After opening up the number format pane, I like to set the decimal places first. In this case, we're going to be using 0 decimal places. I'm going to round to the nearest. In this case, we don't have a negative indicator since all of our values should be positive. And lastly, we're going to add in a unit symbol, which is going to be a $sign. And to add a little context, I'm also going to add in a downward arrow. For the number abbreviation, I'm going to go ahead and remove any abbreviation. I'm going to set it to none. And now in the chart preview, we'll see that our format's taken effect. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to go back to the detail settings, and we're going to enable prevent scroll bars. While we're here, we're also going to look at a couple other settings. The first is going to be text is selectable. If this is enabled, this will allow somebody to come in and interact with the chart by highlighting the text and copying it. If you enable this next setting, you'll allow the user to use this chart as a drill down. The final 2 settings are going to be the sticky select, which is automatically enabled, and hide button row. Sticky select will always have a persistent value showing inside the chart, regardless of any interaction. When enabled, the hide button row will remove any other x-axes from showing up for interaction. Once you're happy with your settings, you can go ahead and save the chart and close out of the designer. Now that we're back on the dashboard, we've got a couple more adjustments to make and we'll be finished. First being is adjusting the tile effects once again. The very last thing we have to show you today is to bring in that information button. For this, we're just going to go ahead and we're going to split the top again, bring it over to the side, and we're going to paste in our minimize panel, and then adjust the tile effects accordingly. Now we'll go ahead and we'll turn off the frame borders, and you'll see that we've successfully built out one of our tile groupings. And once again, if you find yourself needing any assistance with data preparation or dashboard building and design, or even just to share thoughts, don't hesitate to reach out to your dedicated client success manager, and they can arrange a personalized session with one of our skilled engineers anytime to assist you at every stage. Thank you guys for joining us today, and have a good one.